Embarrassing body problems are often very uncomfortable to talk about, so it's no surprise that our next guest kept her embarrassing health issue a secret for many, many years.
I noticed a small lump in my vagina when I was about 18, about the size of a grape. I went to my doctor. He said I had a small cyst. My gynecologist told me not to worry about it. A few years ago, it started growing quite rapidly. The cyst now is about the size of a small lemon. Started to kind of interfere when I was intimate, when I was having sex, because it actually blocks the entrance, and started to be tender. I actually went in to my gynecologist and she said that unless it was extremely painful to the point of going to the ER, didn't need to worry about it and it would be okay. It's been rough. Dating became really hard for me. It's really hard explaining to someone why I have a lemon-sized bump down there. I'm mortified, I'm embarrassed. I try to avoid it at all costs. It's making me a different person.
Since it had been 3 years since Danielle had last seen a gynecologist, we sent her for a consultation with board-certified OB-GYN Dr. Peter Weiss to get some answers.
All right, dear. Don't be afraid.
Is this tender?
It's uncomfortable.
So I know what this is. I could feel that the cyst is more on the outside. It doesn't go high up into the vagina, which is good. Almost as big as a baseball, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
So Danielle, what you have is something called a Bartholin's gland cyst.
Okay.
At the bottom of the vagina, at the opening, there's two glands. The Bartholin's gland secretes fluid, mucus. The one on the right is plugged.
Okay.
I don't think this is infected.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would be very tender. It's not anything that's going to scar you. I'll give you a couple of options.
Danielle and Dr. Weiss join us now, and the two of you share the same specialty. Explain to everyone what's going on, because again, this can be common.
Right. As we heard in the tape piece, Dr. Weiss said, you know, the Bartholin's glands, they generally sit at around 4 and 8 o'clock. And they normally don't create any problem. But when they get plugged, they trap fluid. Sometimes there's an infection there, and it's usually a sterile abscess, but other times it's just fluid. This is excruciating. Excruciating. Women can't walk, they can't sit, they can't drive, forget about having sex. So this is something we see on a regular basis, right?
It's very common. When it gets to the point where it becomes painful, we can do something called an incision and drainage, IND. And it does have a little bit higher recurrence, but it's the simplest thing to do. Nobody has done anything for Danielle. That would be the first thing, but this thing really is as big as a baseball. So there is a little bit of a worry that it'll come back, but I think above all, physician, do no harm, do as little as possible for the most benefit. And so that'll be the first thing. Sometimes you do what's called a marsupialization. You sort of open up a flap, and that's done with a couple of sutures, and it continues to drain. If those don't work, then you'd have to excise, and you and I have done those in the past, and we try to avoid that at all costs.
The marsupialization tends to work really, really well, but immediately in the office, the incision and drainage is, for us, this is where you can go ahead and call us, you know, medical geeks. We love it, right?
Oh, man, you just see that.
It's so rewarding. Well, it's so gratifying because you will feel, Danielle, immediate relief.
Now, Danielle, how does it feel knowing that this is something that could be taken care of rather quickly?
It feels good. It's good to know what it is. It's better to know that it's not something more serious because we talked about, you know, it could have been cancer, it could have been some other things, and I'm glad it's not.
Years and years and years, folks, Danielle suffered with this unnecessarily. And the best part, Dr. Weiss, I know you have something to share with Danielle.
I'd like to be able to do this just no charge. Just help you. This is just so great. She's incredible.
Dr. Weiss, thank you for evaluating Danielle and offering your services. But
I mean, we obviously need to caution women suffering like this at home who truly are suffering should not attempt to lance it or open it on their own. This is done under sterile technique, and there are certain places and ways that we do that. So you're going to feel so much better.
Well, it's also